Let's go ahead, please.
Chair, we're live.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hartley Lefton. I'm the chair of the board of directors of the Toronto Parking Authority. I confirm that we have quorum, and so I will call this meeting of the board to order. Welcome, everyone. This meeting is being held, as have our recent meetings, using the city's WebEx technology, with directors and staff connecting by video conference or calling in. City Council has amended our meeting rules to enable us to hold virtual meetings during the COVID-19 emergency and for a period of time following the termination of the emergency. I hope that you're all keeping safe and wearing masks appropriately, and hopefully we can beat this sooner rather than later. Because we're meeting remotely, we're asking for your patience with any delays and technical issues. Members of the public can and are watching the meeting live at YouTube at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live, one word. There is one registered speaker for this meeting, a public speaker, and that's on item 2. I would like to remind all staff and invited participants to please keep your mics muted and video turned off unless you need to address the board. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching live to observe directors as we debate and vote on agenda items. Directors, please keep your mics muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item. If directors do wish to ask questions with staff or speak, please make sure your video is turned on and your hand is raised, or please unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. When voting on an item or a motion, I will ask the directors turn on their video and raise their hand to indicate a vote. If there's a recorded vote, I'll ask you to state if you are in favor or opposed. Directors, I want to remind you that although we're meeting remotely, we still must submit our motions in writing to the board secretary. City clerk staff are available at tpaboard, TPABOARD, at toronto.ca to help with motions. Although we are in different locations and meeting remotely today, the board of directors of the TPA acknowledges that the land on which we usually meet is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Before we get to our agenda, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our new board secretary, Sylvia Piszczecki, who has recently taken over from Julie Levertu in this role. As the board will remember, Julie assisted us starting with our first meeting in July of 2019. A lot's happened since then. And she was a very valuable resource to me personally, and I know to many others around the table, the virtual table. I'd like to thank Julie for all of her hard work in supporting our board and her dedication to the TPA and to the City of Toronto. Julie is very committed to her job and to the city, and we are lucky to have her. On behalf of the board and the TPA, I wish her all the best on her new portfolio and continued success. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of your interest. Seeing none, may I have a motion to confirm the minutes of our July 24th, 2020 regular meeting and our October 15th, 2020 special meeting of the board?
Allison move.
There's a motion from Alison Mendez. If I can ask directors to turn on their video. All in favor of the motion to approve those two sets of minutes, please raise your hand. Hello? I don't see anyone. If directors can please turn on your video, then we can take a vote.
Our video's on, Chair. It may be your video, but our hand
maybe on mine then.
Page to support.
Yeah. And you're breaking up a lot.
It appears to be on mine.
You're breaking up.
Oh.
Chair.
All right.
I'm having difficulty understanding you. It's breaking up a lot.
Okay, you know what? Let me turn off my. Okay, let me turn this off, and I will dial in. If I can ask you all to please bear with me for one moment.
Okay, sorry about that.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, I apologize for that. I still can't see anyone. If I can ask the board secretary, he can maybe assist with identifying people whose hands are up or down. And as a check, if anyone disagrees with her, please speak up. Would that work?
Okay. Yes, Chair. So in effect, we're calling for a recorded vote.
Effectively, yes. And I apologize for technical difficulties. So we're having a recorded vote, please, on the motion to confirm the minutes from July 24th, 2020 and October 15th, 2020. The July meeting being the regular meeting, October being a special meeting of the board. We can have a recorded vote on this motion.
So directors, when I call your name, could you please say if you are in favor or opposed? Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Director Nambi Vitinanthan.
Nambi, you're on mute.
In favor.
Chair Hartley-Lefton.
In favor.
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Also in favor.
So that motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Before proceeding to consider the agenda items, I would like to add two new items of business, which I'll now introduce. My first new business item is item PA 18.14, a Toronto Parking Authority update regarding personnel matters. I'll ask the board secretary to please display my letter so my fellow directors can review it before voting on whether or not to add it to the agenda. I don't see it, so secretary, if you could please confirm when it's up.
Just one moment. It's just coming up on the screen now.
I actually do see it. I think this is 18.15 though, the president search. I don't see it. Is it up?
No, just 1 second. We're just
Yeah,
getting
no
it onto
problem.
the
Take your time.
screen. Yep, here it is.
I move to add the agenda as new business. All those in favor? I'm not sure.
We just lost Webex.
Jonathan, are you still in or is it gone?
No, it's gone from my...
It's already gone. Okay, I'm going to start you.
Okay, I'm going to email Hartley. Yeah, just to let everyone know, the room at City Hall, we just lost WebEx connection for a few seconds and it has just been restored. So we lost maybe the last minute and a half.
Okay, I think that we all booted and we're not coming back on. I'll give everyone a minute or so. Board Secretary, were you able to track who was on before? I'm less concerned with the board members who I know than either city staff or TPA staff who may not be here.
I'm here.
Okay. So from where I'm sitting, I can see.
Let's do a mic check.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll call the names of those directors I see on the screen, and I'll just ask you to just do a mic check and confirm that we are connected with audio. Director Maureen Farrow. If you could please unmute.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. Chair Hartley-Lupton?
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
But we can't see you though. We can't see you though. We can't see you.
So we can
Okay,
see you in the
we
room.
can see you.
Director Nambi Vithinanthan, we can see you and
I'm
we
here.
can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can hear me too?
Can I ask all the directors to please turn their video on if they can? Yeah, I think that's everyone. Oh, yeah, Allison. Dr. Allison Mendez, can we hear you as well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So I think we're back.
It's just,
And are we on YouTube?
And Director Jeffrey Steiner, we see your tile, but not your video. Are you able to hear us? Okay, so we seem to possibly have lost Jeffrey Steiner.
I'm thinking we might get an audio.
I think I'm coming back in. I was kicked out and I couldn't get the audio going, but let's see what happens.
Okay, we can hear you.
We hear you. We don't speak, but we hear you. There we go. Now we see you.
So there may be two of me, but this seems to work.
Okay. Join meeting.
And Board Secretary, are we on YouTube?
Let me just confirm.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, we are. Our signal is live. So, Chair, you may go ahead.
All right. Let's resume where we were. We were entertaining a motion by me to add a new item PA 18.14, penalty regarding some personal matters. All those in favor of adding this item to the agenda as new business, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will hold this item down so the board secretary can make the item public online before we consider it in further detail later in the meeting. My second item of new business is item PA 18.15, Toronto Parking Authority update regarding the president's search. I'll ask the board secretary to please display my letter so that the directors can review it before voting on whether or not to add it to the agenda. Thank you. I move to add this item to the agenda as new business. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any opposed? Right, the motion carries. And this item too will be held down so the board secretary can make this item available online before we consider it later in the meeting. We'll now proceed with our agenda, including the two items we just added. There are 15 items in our agenda today. As a reminder, if you have something to say or a question to ask, I ask you please raise your hand so that I can create a speaker's list. And to everyone in the meeting, as a reminder, unless you are speaking, I will ask you to please keep your microphones on mute. The first item is item PA 18.1, Toronto Parking Authority 2021 operating budget and 2021 to 2030 capital budget. This is the staff report with recommendations. Robin Oliphant, acting president, Toronto Parking Authority, will provide a brief overview of items to the board. Ms. Oliphant.
Thank you. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank all of our employees for quickly responding to the operational challenges COVID presented, supporting city initiatives by working quickly and tirelessly to remove or relocate equipment, and while working remotely, implement a number of new systems and projects to support our financial sustainability and transformation. Because of your dedication, TPA has had a very, very successful year. Throughout 2020, our focus has remained on managing cash flow and prioritizing strategic projects to ensure sustainable operations and a strong recovery post-pandemic. We are forecasting a small profit in 2020, about 4.9 million, and an ending cash position of over 50 million, which will ensure we are able to meet our future financial commitments. For 2020, revenue is expected to be down about 50% over prior year. Direct operating expenses down 8.3 million as variable expenses drop along in line with revenue, and by further reducing maintenance and staffing levels. This is offset by increased project costs for software implementations, licensing, and training expenses. For 2021, our focus will continue on ensuring cash flow is maintained and replacing end-of-life customer-facing software and systems, and to expand our parking management services, offering to support revenue growth and sustainability by offering our services to other agencies, developers, and property owners. We are also continuing our payment equipment rationalization and looking to update the remaining off-street equipment with a tap payment option, which will accept Interact debit payments. For our facilities, an asset lifecycle management program is being developed to support preventative maintenance and ensure our facilities are clean and safe. Our 2021 budget is break-even, with revenue expected to increase slightly to 55% of 2019's. Overall, expenses are expected to approximate 2019 levels, with direct variable expense decreases offset by staffing critical roles to support strategic projects and to replace end-of-life systems, which is reflected in our software licensing, implementation, and training expense increases. Parking rate increases are not currently being considered or contemplated at this time as part of the budget process due to the soft demand and to support our communities. With respect to bike share, full operations continued throughout 2020. Ridership revenue is up 58% over 2019, and membership up 61%, or 96,000 members, to 255,000, primarily due to casual or increases in casual and single trip membership. Due to the collapse of the out-of-home advertising market, the signing of the Astral advertising agreement was delayed to October, and we are reviewing our sponsorship and further marketing options for 2021, as we are expecting the out-of-home advertising market will remain weak through 2021. As a result, program losses are expected in 2020 and 21 for lost sponsorship, as ridership revenue and growth alone is not sufficient to cover our operating costs. Generally, direct operating expenses are increasing in line with the system expansion, and administration expenses up with higher payment processing fees in line with revenue. In 2020, these fees are significantly higher due to the delayed conversion to Moneris for payment processing, and this project is expected to be completed by the end of this year. A further system expansion is not being contemplated at this time. However, there is a project to refurbish kiosk pedestals to address some rust issues. That's our highlights for the budget. Thank you. I'm sorry, Hartley, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'll start that again. Thank you, Ms. Oliphant, and I do also echo your comments about thanking TPA and city staff for all of their hard work as we moved into pandemic response, and obviously in preparation for the 2021 budget and our capital budget for the next 10 years. Are there any questions of staff on this item? If you do have any questions, please raise your hand or unmute your mic to let me know. Seeing none, are there any questions of staff for which we need to go into closed session? So seeing none, are there any speakers to the item? If you wish to speak, then please raise your hand or unmute your mic. So seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? The Vice Chair? Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Oliphant. Our next item is item PA 18.2, proposed increased parking violation notice penalty amount. There is a staff report with recommendations. Jeffrey D., Director of Parking Strategy, Policy and Planning, Toronto Parking Authority, will provide a brief overview of this item to the board. Mr. D.
Thank you, and good morning. Toronto Parking Authority is proposing to amend the City of Toronto Municipal Code to increase the maximum parking violation notice penalty amount that may be issued to offending vehicles parked at municipal parking facilities from $30 to $75. The increased PVN penalty amount is needed to promote compliance within TPA's off-street car park. Car parks where TPA has removed the daily maximum rate, and there's 32 such car parks, are a particular concern. At these locations, the equivalent rate to park for an 8-hour period exceeds, and in some cases quite significantly, the current $30 value of the penalty. Surveys were undertaken to verify the extent of the problem and found that on average, only 64% of vehicles were paying. The proposed new amount is consistent with other parking-related infractions in the city, as well as other comparable municipalities. If approved, TPA will work to have the new penalty amount implemented as soon as possible in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D. There is also a item, Mr. Len Lamana. Mr. Lamana, are you on the line?
I am. Hello.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome. You have 5 minutes for your presentation.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you all today. My name is Len Lamana, and I'm an enforcement officer for the Toronto Parking Authority. It's my understanding that Toronto has brought back all of their on-street enforcement staff, and the TPA has more than half of their officers still at home. The 10 officers that are back to work have taken pictures of the lots that are full, cannot get everywhere, and are overwhelmed with the amount of work they have. There is a massive amount of lost revenue due to lack of enforcement presence, affecting compliance with customers. Raising ticket amounts will not help this. People will not pay if there's not enough enforcement. Simply speaking, the more enforcement officers tagging, the more money the city will generate, and the more compliance will be created with customers. Thank you for your time, and stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Lamana. Members, are there any questions of the speaker? Mr. Simon, yes.
Yes, Chair. I'm assuming that Mr. Lamana is referring to the off-street parking lot enforcement. Is that correct? And secondly, could he repeat what he was saying about the visual sense of how full or not full our off-street parking lots are?
That is correct, sir. And we have there's a new strategy in place where we have priority lots, and some of the lots that are meant to visit once a week are full every day, and our enforcement staff feel obligated to go to those lots and tag. And the basis is Toronto's a huge place for 10 officers to tag. It's hard to get everywhere. There's another 15 to 20 people still at home that would like to work and generate revenue for the city.
So for the people watching on YouTube or at home, of course, the on-street parking is taken care of by the Toronto Police and their parking enforcement unit. Mr. Lamanna is talking about the parking lots that are actually enforcement is managed by the TPA. Mr. Lamanna, I sense, or I just want to check with you that the idea of a larger fee, if somebody's breaking the rules, you don't have a problem with. Your biggest issue is that there's insufficient number of people doing the enforcement on behalf of the TPA. Presumably, bigger tickets wouldn't hurt, but more people would help.
Yes and no. Like, if someone's paying if someone's getting a ticket of $75, they're gonna see the pattern that the enforcement officers aren't present. The compliance, it's not going to work with the compliance when there's not enough people there daily. We bring back everyone, there'll be more presence, encouraging people to pay. So I don't think it's my belief that I don't feel that the $75 increase will help anything when there's not enough enforcement officers to take care of Toronto.
Well, terrific. Thank you, Mr. Lamanna. Thank you, Chair. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Are there any other questions of the speaker, Mr. Lamanna?
Yes, I have a question, a follow-up question, which is really, you say there may not be enough enforcement officers. How many would what is the shortage? Can we have some idea of the shortfall of the manpower to monitor this and issue tickets?
Well, when we were at full potential, 28 of our enforcement, we could barely get everywhere. We were understaffed at full force. Now we're at 10 enforcement officers, and the lots in the core are still remain very busy and are getting busier. That being said, as well, just to trail off a little bit, we're comparing last year when the Raptors won the championship, the Toronto Parking Authority's best year to date, to a pandemic year. It's hard to compare the two. You can't. This has never happened before. But to go back to what I was saying, the more officers, the city of Toronto brought back all of their officers to generate money for the city. If we bring back all of our officers, we will generate more money for the city. And the city needs money right now. We're stuck. So the 10 staff we have enforcing right now are very overwhelmed. And they have taken pictures and they have sent them to the union. They have sent them to their supervisors, and we still have our officers remaining at home.
Thank you very much. But one of the things that I would have a question about right now is, do you see a problem with going from $30 to $75? Or is it a matter of the number of enforcement officers to collect that and execute that program? Because they're linked, but they are slightly different decisions we have to make.
I feel that we don't have enough enforcement officers to correct this problem. The more officers you're going to have, the more people are going to see officers, the more compliance is going to happen.
Okay. So that's one side, but are you also saying that going from 30 to 75 is the wrong move?
I believe it is. Like, I've been working for the Toronto Parking Authority for 20 years. I've been in many departments, and I feel that that's not the answer. People are going to pay if it's reasonable.
But surely the fine should be higher than the rate to stay in the parking lot. Like otherwise, people will stay in the parking lot and just pay the fine. So is it 55 or is it 75?
Well, if you're going to raise the fee, if you're going to raise the amount, 75 is a lot compared to 30, and to not have the staff enforcing it, it's going to be a lose-lose.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farah. Mr. Lamana, are there any other questions of Mr. Lamana on this item? And I see Councillor Lai has joined us. If you can please reflect that. Hi, Councillor.
My apologies. I have some issue trying to get on, Mr. Chair.
Not at all. Not at all. Councillor, we're on item 18.2, which is a discussion about a proposed increase to Are there any other questions of Mr. Lamana?
I have a question, Allison.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Have we looked at competitor lots to see what their penalty is? I understand 75 is in line with the rest of the city of Toronto, but if a closer lot has a fee that is lower than 75, is there a risk of us potentially losing business that we could capture? Has any thought been put into the penalties of the competitor lots?
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll actually right now, asking questions, and that's a question.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't understand. You're breaking up, so I didn't hear your response to that.
Sorry, this is my phone question. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
I think you have two audios on. Maybe not.
For me?
You might have two audios on. I sense a bit of a echo from your computer, but I may be wrong. I'm no tech expert.
No, my computer volume is off and it's on mute, so it shouldn't be that. It sounds better.
Now we can hear you well.
Okay, great.
That's much better. Thank you.
Ms. Mendez, I was just saying, your question's a good one. But if you don't mind, I'll just punt that for a bit until we're asking questions of staff. Right now, we're asking questions of Mr. Lamana. Is that all right?
Sorry, you're breaking up, but I'm not sure what the question was.
It's a question for staff, Mr. Lamana, so you're off the hook on this one.
Okay.
Are there questions of Mr. Lamana at this time? Seeing none, are there questions of staff on the item? Ms. Mendez?
All right, so I'll ask a question again. Has any consideration been made to what competitor lots are charging in terms of a penalty? The reason I ask is there a risk of the TPA losing potential clients if a competitor lot has a penalty that is lower than if 75 is a number that we're going with? I'm just curious, has any thought been put into that?
Thank you. So our focus was really looking at comparable municipalities and the fine amounts that are in place at these other municipalities. And I would draw your attention to attachment 4 to the report. Table 1 sets out the comparable penalty amounts for parking in a city park, generally at about $100 plus for various infractions related to parking. Table 2 sets out the parking fine structures for comparable municipalities. In Canada, Vancouver is at $140 for their maximum penalty. Calgary is $75, Ottawa $60, Montreal $78, Winnipeg $70, and we've also got some examples from the United States as well. Anecdotally, the fine amounts at private lots in the downtown core do tend to be quite high, upwards of $50 at least. I think our pricing strategy is such that we're still going to attract the demands that we want to get into our lot, which is around short-term parking. So I don't see the increase in fine amount as compromising our potential demands here.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. D.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Isn't some of these parking lots where someone, if they don't pay the proper rate, they could have a high as much of 60 plus dollars as fees, and if they don't park, if they don't pay the thing, they get away with $30.
That's correct. There's an example in the report of our surface lot on Elizabeth Street where the equivalent amount to park for an 8-hour period is $64. So, if somebody is risking a ticket or a PVN, they're getting a pretty good steal for parking at worst case $30.
And also, it goes away from our strategy of using these parking lots for short term. And now, if somebody parks and gets away with $30, they're getting away with also taking a spot for a long term.
Correct. It really inhibits that turnover that we're trying to encourage at our lots through the pricing strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, are there any speakers to the item?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm going to support the resolution to raise the fee. I think Mr. Lamanna's input is helpful on the issue of coverage. Obviously, there are going to be no fines, no fees collected if there isn't actually enforcement of somebody to put the charge on the car that's violating and didn't pay. Maybe later at our next meeting or the meeting after, given COVID, we could get just an update from staff on the off-street parking lots and the enforcement coverage. That'd be really interesting to hear from management. But for today, I think it's practical and in all interest to increase the fee so that these parking violators are discouraged.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Are there any other comments and speakers to the item?
We need to bring back. Sorry, hello?
Yes. Is that Mr. Lamanna?
Yes. Just one last thing. It's my feeling that it's black and white. We need to bring back the enforcement staff, like the prior speaker was saying, to have these fines work. Without the staff, no one's going to get this $70, $75 fine that you're imposing to work. And I leave you with that. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Lamanna. Are there any other speakers from the board to this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? Mr. Steiner. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And Mr. Lamanna, I thank you for taking the time to update us this morning.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You as well. Our next item is item PA 18.3, 2020 off-street rate. There's a staff report with recommendations. Mr. D, I'll ask you to please provide a brief overview of the board.
Thank you. This report provides an overview of the 2020 annual rate review of Toronto Parking Authority's off-street parking facilities and summarizes the trends found across the portfolio. Based on the review completed and given the impact of COVID-19 during 2020, TPA is not proposing to increase rates at this time. Holding rates is consistent with the approach being taken by other parking operators, and we feel like this is the best approach for 2021. TPA board approval is, however, being requested to establish monthly rates at 73 facilities where no monthly rates currently exist. The establishment of these rates will provide TPA greater flexibility to consider short-term permit arrangements when needed by other city divisions, agencies, and corporations for special projects, events, and mitigation of impacts related to construction projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. G. Are there any questions of staff on this item? If you have questions, please raise your hand or unmute your mic to let me know. Seeing none, are there any speakers for the item? Still seeing none. Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? Councillor Lai? Councillor Lai, thank you. All those in favor of adopting the staff recommendation, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item is PA 18.4 2020 on-street rate review. There's a staff report recommendations. Mr. D, would you please provide a brief overview of the item to the board?
So every 3 years, Toronto Parking Authority undertakes a comprehensive review of the hourly parking rate and the hours of operation of its on-street paid parking program. The purpose of the rate review is to evaluate performance of the program and ensure rate and hours of operation are set to encourage the turnover of parking throughout the day. The last comprehensive review was undertaken in October of 2017. Similar to the off-street rate review, TPA is not recommending an adjustment to the on-street rates or hours of operation at this time. Not only have parking demands been impacted through the pandemic and subsequent impacts to the commercial retail sector, but TPA's on-street supply of paid parking has also been impacted by a number of city initiatives, such as Curb TO, Cafe TO, and Active TO. Through its involvement in these programs, TPA has worked with the city to minimize the impacts to the paid parking on street and is working to actively expand the on-street paid parking program. Two areas of focus we've been carrying out over the last little while since the beginning of the pandemic. The first is to mitigate the impacts of projects and initiatives by securing replacement parking, and this was particularly true around the active TO projects. And then the second area of focus was carrying out our due diligence and consultation needed to implement the over 3,500 potential on-street parking spaces that we've identified. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. G. Are there questions of staff, on this item? Mr. Steiner?
Thank you, Chair. Jeff, can you drill down a little bit on the 3,500 parking spots you've identified? What are those, and what's the scenario around those spots?
So these are new locations for on-street paid parking. We've separated these out into buckets so that we can action them out quickly. We've got approximately 1,500 that we've identified as priority locations where we can convert locations that are currently subject to 1 hour parking for free to paid parking. So in these locations, there's no real impact to traffic operations. Typically, it's just an adjustment to paying for parking. Some of the other locations require some assessment from the city's Transportation Services Division, where they need to, assess the impacts of implementing parking in a specific location. Could be on a main street where there's a bus route or a streetcar route, where there needs to be some consultation with the TTC. And so, with the long list that we have, we've been slowly we've been going through the consultation with Transportation Services to look at those impacts to the transportation network. We've been engaging with the local ward councillor and also the local BIA to understand any concerns that they may have.
Jeffrey, if I understand right, you're saying there's a bundle of them that are really about putting maybe some metering or some charges on some existing spots. That's bundle A. And there's another bundle that is about creating new spots that don't exist today. Is that right?
Correct. It's a little more nuanced than that, but generally there's a number of quick win locations that we think we can move forward fairly quickly.
Well, that's terrific. And my view, just as one board member, anything you can do to create new spots would be very, very helpful, because I've seen many parking spots that have been, taken out to help the restaurateurs, et cetera, which is all good. But there aren't any spots left for people to come and visit the restaurants to park easily. So anything you can do to create more spots, even if it's only for a year or what have you, and maybe they become permanent because they make sense, that would be great. So keep up the great work. I certainly encourage this analysis and the consultation with the councillors and the transportation officials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Are there any other questions of staff on this item?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mr. D, in respect to the parking spots that we lost due to some of the city initiatives, is there any way of fast tracking them to get some replacement parking lots?
So we're working with transportation and the local ward councillors to move these forward as quickly as possible. Depending on the exact location of the replacement parking spaces and really whether it's on a route that has a transit route on it as well or not, there is quite a bit of process that we need to go through to get the parking regulatory changes implemented. So, just generally at a high level, this involves a report to community council. If the new parking is on a transit route, there's also that report needs to be referred to city council, and ultimately bills then need to be introduced into city council to enact the changes. So there's quite a bit of work here, and we've been trying to prioritize our efforts to get the easy ones out of the way and really focus on like replacement parking for the Danforth and Bloor Street West, which have seen the removal of some parking related to the implementation of cycling infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, are there any speakers to the item? Seeing no further speakers, is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? Mr. Steiner? All those in favor of adopting the recommendation, please raise your hands. Any opposed? The motion carries. Our next item is item PA 18.5, license agreement at Municipal Car Park 195, which is 15 Price Street. There is a staff report recommendations. Mr. D, will you please provide an overview to the board?
Thank you. So this report deals with Car Park 195, which is located at 15 Price Street in the Yonge and Somerville area. As part of the site plan agreement for a development adjacent to this car park, the City Planning Division has required the developer to carry out landscaping improvements within the car park. So this report seeks board authority for TPA to execute a license agreement with the developer, which will allow them to carry out the landscaping and maintain what they install for a 12-month period. Construction will not impact the operation of Car Park 195 and will occur at no cost to TPA. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff on the item? Are there any speakers to the item? Mr. Steiner.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, I just think this essentially a license to do some work that doesn't have any cost implications might be an item that we should think about delegated authority to management for these under 1 year licenses that don't involve expenditure. by the TPA. It's just something to look at maybe in any of the administrator reviews or governance reviews in 2021. Nothing to act on today, but it just seems to me that this kind of an item is certainly something that our management should be able to decide on and make decisions about without having to come back to the board. So just a thought for you, Chair, and management and our board members.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Appreciate it. Are there any other speakers to the item? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the recommendation? Ms. Farrow? All those in favor of the item, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item PA 18.6, acquisition of parking at 105 Spadina Avenue, which is Car Park 212, and 363 Adelaide Street West, which is Car Park 227. There is a staff report with recommendations. Mr. D.
Thank you. Toronto Parking Authority has been working with Creatio in negotiating major business terms of a property transaction involving the city-owned property located at 105 Spadina Avenue and 363 Adelaide Street West, also known as Municipal Car Parks 212 and 227. The proposed transaction includes disposition of the city-owned properties, which will be combined with 101 Spadina Avenue and developed with a high-rise residential condominium. On completion of the project, TPA will receive a minimum of 70 below-grade parking spaces to be constructed in accordance with TPA specifications. The City of Toronto will also receive stratified ownership of a 1,000 square meter public park at the corner of Spadina and Adelaide Street West, and also cash proceeds to fund the acquisition of an estimated 25 to 30 new affordable housing units in the area. Parking demands in this area are some of the strongest across the entire city. TPA has carried out a detailed financial analysis and is seeking authority from the board on the terms and conditions of the transaction that are presented in the confidential attachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D. Did anyone else lose Mr. D partway through his presentation, or was that just me?
I have a comment, Chair.
Sure, go ahead, please.
And this is not necessarily to do with this transaction. It's to do with generally, in light of COVID, what we're seeing is a lot of downward pressure on the demand or the willingness to purchase condos. Assessment and assessments that we're going to get going forward, I think should really take a look, and I'm hopefully that the staff are beginning to look at the demand situation and possibly an oversupply situation. We have something like 20,000 new units coming online in the next 12 months, and I think there's another 25,000 units the following year. There's over 100 and something thousand units on the drawing boards for Toronto, and I'm not saying that they're not.
Maureen froze on us, I think.
And Ms. Farrow, I'm sorry, I lost you. Ms. Farrow, are you there? Can we do a quick roll call, please? Board Secretary, can we do a quick roll call of the board, please?
Sure thing. So Chair Hartley-Lefton?
Yes.
Going to be
Director Maureen Farrow? Yeah, it looks like Director Maureen Farrow is not answering. I see her tile, but she may have some bandwidth issues.
well.
Oh, Director, we just had you. Can you do a mic check? Okay, I'll come back to Director Farrow. Councillor Cynthia Lai.
Here.
Director Nambi Vityananthan.
I'm here.
Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Hello.
And Director Alison Mendez.
Present.
Thank you. And Director Maureen Farrow.
I don't see her on my tile on her video. Do you see her at all?
Chair, from the room, we see her tile, but we don't see the director's video, just the tile.
I'm in the same position. Maureen, can you hear us? It sounds like no. If I could ask staff that if they understood the question, if they could reply to it. I took it, the question was essentially, the condo market appears to be softening in Toronto. What is the viability of a business plan that relies upon the property being purchased for condo use?
Thank you. So I'd invite my colleague Nick Simos from Creatio. Nick is the VP of Portfolio Execution with Creatio to offer his thoughts on the condo market and where it's headed, and whether or not this transaction represents good value for both the city and Toronto Parking Authority.
Thank you, Jeff, and through the board chair. The deal that's in front of us here today contemplates the disposition of a city-owned asset with replacement parking and a stratified piece of park. With respect to the condo market itself, there's still a process that is going to be undertaken through getting zoning approvals done within, the next 12 to 18 months. The market itself hasn't stopped from developing. Developers are still in contact with us on the development industry and bringing these units out to market. Staff from the City of Toronto and Creatio are still working towards affordable housing units and putting those up in the marketplace. The pandemic has obviously caused some thoughts around the condo industry and whether or not that's something that's viable out there. There are no indications that we have received from the market itself and the transactions that we're doing that is slowing down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I may ask, to what extent does the business case for these acquisitions rely upon a sale of the properties in a few in order to build what are likely condos, or what we think right now are condos?
I'm sorry, you cut out and I didn't hear your full question.
I apologize. My question was, to what extent the business plan for these acquisitions relies upon a sale of the properties in the period of time, presumptively for them to be converted to condos, and TPA would take back substrata spots.
So portions of our lands will be disposed at fee simple. Other components of our lands will be provided for construction-related purposes, of which we're not tied into the development itself from a marketing standpoint and a selling standpoint to the marketplace. The money that's going to be received is going to be guaranteed, irrespective of how they carry out their marketing plan and their selling plan on the development itself. Is that the question you're asking? I'm just trying to understand it. If that's where you're heading towards, about guaranteeing the funds to the city and to the TPA.
I think my question is really, if Ms. Farrow's correct, or I'll read into her question. If her concern is correct and the condo market is softer for longer, then are these acquisitions still viable?
Yes, they're still viable.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, are there any speakers?
Sorry. I had a question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. I
Yes.
too well.
Okay. Okay. Is there any outlay from the TPA until such time everything the condo gets built and is in operation? So if, for example, if the condo gets delayed, we are not out money ourselves through the TPA on this project.
I would just ask clerks whether or not we can take that question in open forum or whether or not we need to go in camera for that.
I think I can generally give a response to that. The way the deal will be structured will not require us to be at risk based on the question that you have.
Okay then.
Thank you. Are there any other?
But I think the question is also not just the TPA, but what about the city?
Correct. I look at the deal as one deal, and when we reference a TPA in the city, it's all being collectively thought as the same.
Could you repeat that answer, please, Nick?
Sure. When I'm referencing the deal itself, I'm including not only the Toronto Parking Authority, but also the City of Toronto in the greater capacity of the deal itself in transacting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? I apologize. I actually can't see your videos. So if you do have other questions, you can just say your name and I'll call upon you. Hearing no other questions, are there any speakers to the item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Jeff Steiner.
Mr. Steiner, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to know, we did receive a communications PA 18.6.1 email, I think, from an Ed Finnerty, just dealing with the process. So I just want to acknowledge we have that note. I'll have a question for staff later on how to deal with it, but it would be useful at some point to have a bit of a flow chart on how TPA related properties kind of come to the board and what opportunity there is for public input. The lots of information about a real estate deal is to be confidential. We have a confidential report, and I'll have some questions, Mr. Chair, during the confidential session, but just for Mr. Finnerty and others watching to know that it is normal course that some of the terms of these land transactions have to be in camera because they affect the market and third-party rights, and we want to be responsible and protect the best interests of the city and the Toronto Parking Authority as an organization. So I will have some questions on the in-camera confidential report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Ms. Oliphant, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I guess commencing at this meeting and going forward, we're looking to put confidential financial information separate from the report in order to ensure, as we have previously experienced, our counterparties have in the past reviewed our public reports and have attempted to come back and renegotiate key terms, conditions, and critical aspects and renegotiate a deal which is unfavorable for TPA. So in coming to this conclusion, I consulted with the Auditor General's office and with clerks concerning confidential information, what qualifies, what does not, and hence going forward, we've updated our process.
Well, I think, Madam President, that's very, very helpful. I think so long as the outlines of the deal and the fact that we're dealing with property and is all in public documents and the opportunity for input, as long as that still exists, keeping some of the financial terms and other legal terms confidential is normal course business, and in fact is protecting the taxpayer, the city, and the TPA as you've just outlined. So I'm very satisfied, Mr. Chair, with the President's response to my question and comment.
Thank you, Ms. Oliphant and Mr. Steiner. Are there any other speakers to the item? I apologize. I actually can't see anyone, so if you do have something to say, if you could please speak your name out loud. Hearing none. Is there a motion to adopt a staff recommendation?
Motion to move.
Chair, this is Sylvia speaking. My understanding was that Director Steiner had some questions for closed session, so perhaps this item should be held down.
Mr. Steiner, do you still have questions, or are they resolved?
No, I'd have one or two questions in the confidential thing on or now whenever for the board.
Sir, are your questions to this item that would influence your vote one way or the other, or are they more general and prospective questions?
No, there would be specific questions about valuation. In theory, they could affect my vote. Not procedural. In general, I'm happy with the transaction. There's just a few questions in terms of due diligence that I'd like to ask and have on the in-camera record.
Okay, in that sense, why don't we push it to after we return from closed session, and that way you can ask questions that you want in closed session. So we'll...
We're happy to do it whichever way is most appropriate. Thank you.
Well, this way, we can be confident that any concerns that any director has about this transaction, including diligence and so on, will have been fully canvassed. So I thank you for that, and I thank you, Board Secretary, for raising that. Our next item is item PA 18.7, 2204-2212 Eglinton Avenue West and 601 Caledonia Road. Directors may remember this from our very first meeting in July of 2019. Mr. D, we provide a brief overview of this item to the board, please.
Thank you. At its meeting of July 23rd, 2019, the board requested TPA to consult with the local councillor, Create TO, and the Deputy City Manager, Corporate Services, about including the lands located at 2204 to 2212 Eglinton Avenue West in the ongoing review of city-owned assets for the Housing Now initiative. And once completed with that review, to report back to the board with an update. So staff from Create TO, TPA, the Housing Secretariat, and City Planning have analyzed several scenarios in which the city-owned lands could contribute towards the city's affordable housing objectives. Create TO has completed an area planning review and believe that with the Eglinton Crosstown LRT project and associated intensification of the surrounding area over the next 10 years, that the subject properties hold strong potential for a mid-rise mixed-use development with commercial uses at grade, a mix of affordable and market housing on the upper levels, and potential below-grade parking. Given that the site is now expected to be available for the operation of a municipal car park for a much shorter time frame, and that being 10 years instead of the 20 years that was planned at the time that the properties were acquired, TPA has reassessed the viability of the municipal parking operation at this location and carried out additional due diligence to consider other short-term uses for the site. The purpose of this report is to present the potential options for the short-term use of the site, including the financial impacts of each. On the basis of the analysis of options completed, TPA is recommending that the board direct TPA in consultation with Create TO and Corporate Real Estate to make the lands available through a commercial use or, a commercial lease for other third-party uses. This option will minimize the capital expenditures required at this location and provides an opportunity to obtain a return on investment over the period that TPA expects to retain operational jurisdiction over the site. Given the condition of the existing buildings on the site, TPA is also recommending that the existing structures be demolished as soon as possible. An analysis of the short-term options considered by TPA is included in the confidential attachment to the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. G. Are there any questions of staff on this item?
Yes, from Jeff Steiner.
Mr. Steiner, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, Jeffrey, if I understand, maybe you can tell me if I'm correct, that one day for some kind of mixed-use development, but probably not for 10 years, and that's kind of the conclusion of Creatio on this particular site, and that you, management at TPA, have found a useful use of this land for about 10 years, and that's kind of the best fit. That's question number one. And question number two, I understand that since this matter first came up to the TPA in the summer of 2019, 7 or 8 additional sites for affordable housing were selected by Creatio, added to the 11 original sites. Now there's more like 18 or 19 sites. And this site at Eglinton and Caledonia was not one of those priority sites set by Creatio. Are those two questions, comments correct?
The first question is correct. The second question, I would ask Nick Timos to comment.
Sorry, through the chair. What was you were referencing how many sites of the Toronto Parking Authority were part of the consideration for affordable housing?
Yeah, Nick, when we first dealt with this was about a little over a year ago in the summer. The housing initiative, the affordable housing initiative, had 11 priority sites that Creatio was working on. Since then, 7 or 8, I can't remember if it's 7 or 8, if there's 18 or 19 priority affordable housing projects that Creatio is working on. So they added some since last summer. Your team at Creatio added some since last summer, but this Eglinton and Caledonia was not deemed to be a priority site of those 17 or 18 sites.
Through the chair, not at this current time.
Terrific. Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair and colleagues.
Jeffrey, I've lost you. I can't hear you.
I think it might be Hartley that's missing. He looks a bit frozen on. Oh, there he is. Good.
Mute.
Sorry, I may have been on mute. I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Are there any other questions of staff on the item? Hearing none. Are there any speakers to the item? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? Is there a motion to adopt this recommendation?
I think Allison and Cynthia put their hands up.
I apologize. I actually can't see anyone right now. So if I could ask you please just to say your name if you're trying to get
Cynthia Lai, Councillor Lai here. Moved.
Thank you, Councillor Lai. I apologize, but because I don't have anyone on video, I'll ask you to do this by recorded vote, please. Board Secretary, can you please assess with the recorded vote?
Yes, so directors, please, when I call your name, please state either in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor.
Thank you. Director Nambi Vithiananthan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
Thank you. And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Yes, in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, the results of the vote are 6-0.
Thank you very much, Board Secretary, and I thank staff again for assistance with this. Hopefully, we don't ever have anything again that's in abeyance for a year and a half. I appreciate, though, that there were a lot of moving parts here, and I appreciate everyone's assistance in working with other city agencies in moving us over the goal line, at least for now. Our next item is item PA 18.8, a contract award in response to request for quotation number SM 2020-01 for winter maintenance services at Toronto Parking Authority off-street parking facilities. Manila Duvalla, Vice President of Operations at TPA, will provide a brief overview of this item for Ms. Duvalla.
Thank you. We are requesting authority to award a 2-year contract with the option to extend for 1 additional year for the provision of winter maintenance services, including snow clearing, snow removal, and salting for TPA off-street parking facilities to Across Canada Construction Limited, as they submitted the lowest bid and met all mandatory requirements outlined in our RFP. TPA has retained winter maintenance services from Across Canada for the past 5 years. The cost for the final season, not including taxes, were $1.03 million. At approximately $1.25 million, the bid price for year 1 is approximately 20% higher than the final year of the last contract. This is due in part to TPA making some changes to the scope, including adding flexibility to add and delete lots as required rather than paying in one lump sum monthly. Adding mandatory performance requirements and service level requirements, as well as mandatory use of work validation tracking technology. The goal of having a 2-year contract is to line up our landscaping and winter maintenance contracts to end at approximately the same time so that we can piggyback off the landscaping and winter maintenance contracts with the City of Toronto as they utilize one vendor for both services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duvalla.
I just have one question,
Sure,
and that's it's really when you look at the 2 quotes that you received, Gazzola Paving is just so huge compared to the other one, and so I just wondered why this was such a variant.
It's a great question. Unfortunately, we're not aware of why different companies will quote the way that they do. However, we can tell you that when we've issued RFPs or RFQs previously for the same service, Gazzola has bid higher than others.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, as Councillor Lai here, I do have a question.
Yes, please.
Just for my interest, is ACC have they been providing service to TPA before previously?
Yes, we just finished a 5-year contract with them.
Okay, okay, sorry, yeah. So we had 5 years with them before.
Right.
And are you satisfied with their services, for the previous services?
Yes, we are.
So we are. Okay. Are there any regular, how would I put it, accountability, regular check of their services in their contract? Like, can we actually, if we found that they're no good or whatever, is there a way out of the contract?
Yes, there is a termination clause there for us. Yes, if we're not satisfied. And with this contract, we have put in extra measures such as service levels that were not existent in the previous contract. So, again, we have put in these extra measures so that we can hold them accountable for the service levels that we require.
I see. So there's a termination clause without cause, I would say. Yeah, if we're not happy with them or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure that those are all in place. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Stephanie Adam.
And Allison, just a follow-up question on that. So the service levels for the current provider are good. Have there been any surprise cost overruns in the previous 5 years with this provider?
Sorry, I missed the question.
So you confirmed that the service levels have been satisfactory with the current provider. I'm just questioning, have they come back with any cost overruns that were any surprises in the last 5 years?
No cost overruns. So again, some of the reasons why we put in these extra performance measures is to ensure that we can hold our vendors accountable. Because in the past we didn't have some of those measures in place. We didn't have outlined specific service levels. Again, we now have tracking technology that our vendors will be able to scan in and scan out when they've gone to lots, which we've never had previously. And so there weren't any cost overrun issues in the past. However, we have put in these measures to ensure that we can really ensure that we're getting those service levels we require. Because in the past, we did not have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Hearing none, are there any speakers to the item? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the recommendation?
Councillor Lai here.
Councillor Lai? All those, Board Secretary, can you please help with a recorded vote? I still don't see anyone.
Yes, Chair, Directors, when I call your name, could you please state in favor or opposed? Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor.
Director Nambi Vityananthan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
Thank you. And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Also in favor.
Thank you, Chair. The motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board Secretary. Our next item is item 18.9, a contract award, City of Toronto request for proposal number 6302-19-0229 for supply and delivery of various industrial supplies, equipment, and services for various City of Toronto divisions. I'll ask Ms. Anduvala to please provide an overview item to the board.
Great, thank you. We are requesting authority to enter into a contract with Auckland Ranger for the non-exclusive supply and delivery of industrial supplies for TPA off-street parking facilities, having been the highest scoring proponent in the RFP tendered by the City of Toronto. The City of Toronto contract ends April 30th of 2021 with the option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods, and TPA requests authority to enter in a separate and distinct contract with the same term. TPA has an ongoing requirement for industrial supplies, tools, maintenance equipment, and health and safety supplies. And currently, staff endeavor to procure required material at big box retailers such as Home Depot and Lowe's on a one-off basis with a TPA-issued purchasing card and through one-off procurement processes whereby 3 quotes are obtained. The disadvantages of procuring supplies this way include lost opportunities for bulk discounts, inefficient use of employee time to find and locate vendors, and longer resolution times for maintenance issues. By centralizing this into one contract, we will have a much better view into purchases we're making, and with SAP, we will be able to track spend by location. Our goal is to eliminate reduce P-card usage for our staff and to have a much more efficient procurement process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adjabala. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Hearing none, are there any speakers to the item? Hearing none again. Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation? Sorry, I can't see anyone. If you want to give a motion, if you please speak your name.
This is Nambi Vidyanandan. I move.
All right, Vice Chair, thank you very much. The Vice Chair has moved to adopt the recommendation. Board Secretary, if I please ask for your assistance in conducting the recorded vote.
Yes, Chair. Directors, when I call your name, please state in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor?
Director Nambi Vidyananthan.
In favor?
Chair Hartley Lufton.
In favor?
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
In favor.
Thank you, Chair. The vote carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Our next item is item PA 18.10, open data request, cycling and infrastructure programs, the bike share ridership. I'll ask Sean Weldrake, manager of bike share PPA, to provide a brief overview of this item to the board. Mr. Weldrake?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. This is an issue that's been going on for many years. BikeShare had introduced open data back at its inception in 2011. And through a motion from Councillor Ainsley in the last year, we have provided more information more timely now. So the report that you have in front of you indicates that now all open data or all data travel trips for BikeShare is now public for the last 2 years. And a regular update for open data will be provided monthly as we go forward. So later in November, October's trips for BikeShare Toronto will be posted on the City of Toronto's open data site. And I hope you get a chance to look at the data, and I'm free to answer any questions you may have now. Inquiry.
Chair, I have a question. Councillor Lai here.
Yes, Councillor Lai, please. I think Mr. Weldrake. Councillor Lai, please.
Thank you. I've seen those, I've read those data. I think I'm going to be asking a question that may not be related. I don't know whether you have the answer of that. Are there any plans to have a bike share system in Scarborough North, in the north part of Scarborough?
At this time, there is not plans to fund a program in North Scarborough. We're looking at it. We looked at it in our feasibility study in 2016, and it wasn't a high priority or a high possibility. Pilot areas are still underway, as you know, in South Scarborough. And I have no capital funding to expand into any area other of Scarborough this coming year or in future years.
So what are your... Sorry.
I continue to look for funds, though, or in capital funding opportunities and grants, but I have nothing to announce at this time.
What is some of the criteria that you determine whether, you know, that area is feasible for a bike share program?
Well, we did this study in 2016 that looked at 22 different factors: density of population, employment, number of bike lanes, destinations, and the stronger areas were more central in the city. The issue with going to that area is not that there are people who wouldn't use bike share. I know there are. It's that there'd be a low return on possible user fee. Like, we're less likely break even in certain areas of the city than more dense areas of the city.
You're saying about 2016, you did the feasibility study. Are you going to be doing another one? I mean, what is, if so, when would this date be? Or because, you know, I think 4 years time might have changed, and, you know, are you planning on doing another feasibility study in some part of the city? Yeah,
there is. I'll defer to the president of the company, but there is a possibility of a study in the next year. Though the budget for it is not set, and but there's definitely a possibility.
It's planning for next year if the possibility is going to be, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lai. Are there any other questions of staff on the item?
Yeah, I got a specific question too. Is any plans of putting bike share locations at North York Fairview area?
It's similar. Thank you very much for the question. We did look at North York Fairview area as part of the feasibility study in 2016. And it's a similar answer to the one I just gave to the councillor, that it was unlikely to have a return on user revenue, and so was not part of the original 5-year expansion plan. There has been a lot of interest in that area, though, and North York City Planning has been looking at possible Section 37 funds for some of the new development for that area, but no funds have been secured to expand into that area at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff on this item?
A brief question, Mr. Chair, Jeff Steiner.
Yes, please.
Yes, there's been some very good progress in rolling out the expansion, and numbers are up, which is good. I've had some comments from users that the bikes are a bit heavy, and I haven't had an opportunity to play with one of the e-bikes yet. But if maybe just briefly you could comment on our regular stock of bikes. Are they heavier than many other cities? Will we see, 6-7 years from now, those being replaced? And are the e-bikes a little bit lighter, despite obviously some kind of electric motor? So just very briefly.
So thank you very much for that question, and to the chair. Our system, our bikes are heavier. They are specially, purposely built public bike sharing bikes, and so they're over 35 pounds, and so they were built to last and be used heavily. And I would assure you that the bikes that we purchased in 2011, like 99% of them are still in operation today, because they are so heavily built. And so our investment has been worthwhile, and with proper maintenance, they can be kept for a long time. The other thing that I think a lot of users complain about is actually the gear ratio that we have on our bikes is a 3-speed gear ratio. And that actually keeps the speed lower. And it is generally, most people ride the bikes between 20 and 25 kilometers an hour. And so it is slower than, say, like your own bike. And that is for safety reasons, as well as, the cost of the bikes. The e-bikes are much heavier. They're approaching 45, 50 pounds because they have a large lithium-ion battery in them, and a motor. But they do provide a pedal assist for someone, and so it's much easier for someone to go up a big hill on the e-bike, and so the bike may feel lighter. The speed is limited to below 25 kilometers an hour on the e-bikes, though, again, to keep people safe, because we could have people whose their first experience ever riding a bike is on Bike Share Toronto. And it's important, I believe, to keep the speeds to a reasonable level if we can.
Well, terrific, Sean. Thank you very much. And of course, if there was bikes with training wheels, those would be the ones I would have to use because I'm somewhat uncoordinated.
Well, hopefully we can get you out and maybe in the warmer weather on the e-bikes.
For what it's worth, Jeff Freeman advised that it's just like riding a bike. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Hearing none.
Okay, no, I got a question. What is the usage difference between the warmer months and the colder months on the bike share program?
Thank you, and to the chair. This is a good question. It reflects in our revenues as well as our trips. So in this peak summer, so say in July of this year, we would maybe have 600,000 trips. But in December or January, will be more like 100,000 trips plus. Now, of course, it depends on the size of the system. As we grow, the number of trips we get in the winter continues to increase as well as the summer. But it's that type of difference. With COVID, this year is not a typical year, and so patterns are all over the place. So it's hard to come up with what I actually would expect. But generally, we have 70% of the trips are in like 3 months, and the rest of the year is a lot slower, and that is just because of the weather for the most part. The darker and wetter it is, the less trips we have.
Thank you. Are there other questions of staff on this item?
I think there's another question from the director.
If you can say your name, please give a question.
I think you're muted.
Hi, this is Nami Vidyanand, and I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead. Yes.
In terms of maintenance and cost of carrying the bikes over the winter months, is that in terms of our contracts, etc., is that a reduced amount that we pay in terms for maintenance and carrying this system during the winter months?
No, we don't have a reduced fee. The user fee is $54 per dock per month, and then we expect the operator to be maintaining a number of KPIs, including maintenance on the bikes all year long. And so generally they have a lot of work to do in the summer months, but in the winter months they should also be repairing our bikes and stations just as frequently as they do in the summer months. Sometimes if there's long-term or larger kind of repair projects, sometimes they're deferred till the winter, but the fee is the same, and we expect the same level of availability. Like the availability of bikes goes down to 70% in the winter months versus 90% in the summer months, but it doesn't mean that the bikes don't need to be repaired to the same level in the summer versus the winter, and that's to help protect our users and that they get a safe product when they're on the road.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Hearing none, are there any speakers to the item?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to speak on the item.
Yes,
Councillor Lai here.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for this really good report. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate the fact that I think because of COVID, we've heard about how the data has been changed with COVID and all that. And I think there's a new norms in life. I think a lot of more people wanted to do bicycle ride and all that kind of thing, even in the suburb areas. And I don't know whether a motion is necessary, but I think I would suggest that we will undertake with the budget to go for another feasibility study for 2021. I think that would be a good way of, I think even some of the suburb areas like North York or Scarborough, I think a lot of our residents have been asking the question whether there's bike share. How do we find all these bikes? The bike share system, I think, because with the environment, we should probably encouraging in COVID. We should probably encourage more people to take on the bike, and I don't know how it works with the feasibility. And I've heard about density of the area. I think there's a lot of density coming on Shepherd and density in the Fairview Mall area, like Vice Chair Nambi was saying. And I know that there's always whether the return for the money is very important as part of the feasibility criteria. But I really do think that we should be anticipating to our residents' needs and do some of these things outside of the box, and do a feasibility study next year, and let's go forward and move forward with this bike share program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. Are there any other speakers to the item?
Chair, I would like. It's more in far here. I'd like to add to that I believe Sean said that the last study was done in 2016. And I think in light of COVID and also the adoption and putting in place of many more bicycle lanes, etc., I would endorse the Councillor Lay's suggestion that we look at a study next year, a new study that would or an updated study, so that we are really meeting the needs of the city and the population at large, particularly as COVID doesn't look like it's going to go away completely.
Thank you. Pardon me, I'll ask Ms. Oliphant, is that something that we could have on the agenda for a future meeting?
Do that because it's Councillor here. I don't know whether we can make a motion, or I don't know how to go about this. But if the motion is needed, I think I'm ready to move it, and I'm sure Ms. Farrell can second.
I would willingly second.
If I may, through the chair, as part of item 11, we are wishing to defer that item to have further discussions around the report, ensure the recommendations are complete, and I would suggest that we could, as part of that review, undertake a scope review and look to another study for expansion feasibility as part of that.
So we don't need a motion for that, or is it going to be included in the next year's budget for the TPA?
I can bring it forth as part of the review on item 11, or if you wish, I can make it a separate item. Let me know.
Okay, as long as it's done, I really don't know how to go about it, but just make sure that we have the budget. Everything's about money, so we need to have the budget to undertake that feasibility study for 2021.
So I can offer to do a motion.
Motion? Yes. No? Mr. Chair, do we need a motion for this, or I don't know. What's your ruling on this?
I'm not sure we need one, but if you'd like to move one, I'm happy to entertain that.
Yeah, but we need time for the clerk to prepare the motion, do we not? Do you want to maybe hold on to this and come back to it?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Let's if staff can please prepare the motion, and we'll come back to this. We'll hold this item for now.
Okay. Chair, this is Sylvia. We will work on a motion for the councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any of the speakers to the item, or someone who would like to move a motion to adopt the recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I thought we were going to be waiting for the motion before we adopt the item. Could we maybe hold this item and move on to the next, and then come back to this?
Sorry, I thought that the motion was independent of 18.10, but I'm happy to hold 18.10 while the motion is being considered. That's fine.
Is it 18.10 or oh, I'm sorry. So it's 18.11. Okay. Oh, I just kind of sorry. Well, we can move to receive the report for this one, and then we'll hold the motion for the 18.11. How's that? Yeah.
Sounds
okay.
Good. But,
yeah. I'll move to receive the report for 18.10.
Ms. Oliphant, are we not punting 18.11?
Yes, we will, but item 10 is with respect to open data, which can proceed.
Right. Now I get you, Robin.
I heard them together too.
Apologies for the confusion.
I know. Yeah. Mr. Chair, let's move to receive the report for 18.10, and then we'll deal with the other motion on 18.11.
Okay, very good. So is there a mover for...
I will move. Yeah, I will move to receive the report.
Thank you, Councillor. And I still don't have a lot of video, so I'll ask the board secretary to conduct the vote.
Yes, Chair, and I just will point out that there is a staff recommendation on 1810, so it would be a motion to adopt. So, directors, when I state your name, could you please indicate if you are in favor or opposed? Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor.
Director Nambi Vidyanathan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Alison Mendez.
In favor.
Director Jeffrey Steiner.
In favor.
Thank you. Chair, the vote carries with 6-0.
Thank you very much, Board Secretary. 18.11, Ms. Oliphant, we're punting that to a future meeting, to the next meeting?
That is correct. Through discussions with Councillor Pasternak, we are able to defer this item in order to hold a more fulsome discussion around the report recommendations, make sure that they're complete. So we would like to defer this to the next meeting. He's extended his deadlines for us.
Thank you.
Does that mean, Mr. Chair, does that mean that I cannot move my motion on this one then? Because I thought we were going to be dealing with this one.
Yeah, I think we'll not move the motion, but I think it's fair to say that staff understand where you're coming from. And if I can just ask that when 18.11 comes up at the next meeting, that the report include the items that Councillor Lai has requested.
Okay, so okay, I will defer for the next meeting then. I will read the report. If it wasn't there, then I can actually add the motion then. It's really not a big rush on that one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and thank you all. Next item is item 18.12.
Chair, sorry, this is Sylvia speaking. Sorry to interrupt. So on item 11, could you please ask for a motion to defer that item to the next meeting? The board does need to vote on the deferral.
Sure. I'll move the motion to defer 18.11 to a future meeting. If I can... Here we go. The item is on the screen in front of you. The motion is by me that consideration of the item 18.11 be deferred to the December 14th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Directors of the Toronto Parking Authority. If I can ask the Board Secretary to please assist with the recorded vote.
Yes, Chair. Directors, when I call your name, could you please state in favor or opposed? Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor.
Director Nambi Vidyanathan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Alison Mendez.
In favor.
And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
In favor.
Thank you, Chair. The vote carries with 6-0.
Thank you very much, Board Secretary and colleagues. Our next item is item PA 18.12, amendments to Toronto Parking Authority Policy Resolution 4-1, Appendix 3, Vacations with Pay. There is a staff report with recommendations, and I'll ask Aline and Fritz, Vice President of Resources and Transformation, to provide a brief overview of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toronto Parking Authority has established a range of board-enacted policies which form the guiding principles and procedures by which it operates. Toronto Parking Authority is seeking to amend the TPA Policy Resolution 4-1, Appendix 3, Vacations with Pay, with two key revisions. The first revision is the removal of references to a 22-year milestone. In 2006, the 22-year service milestone for vacation entitlement was changed to 21 years of service. As 22 years is no longer a milestone for purposes of vacation entitlements, The reference to the 22-year milestone is no longer required, and therefore the removal of references to this milestone is proposed. The second revision is the introduction of a vacation carryover guidelines and a cap. Vacation leave is an important part of work-life balance for employees. It supports both health and wellness. For this reason, Toronto Parking Authority encourages employees to take their annual vacation leave entitlements as they have earned it. Ongoing accumulation of vacation time not only affects employee work-life balance, it also presents financial risk to the organization. In line with the City of Toronto and other agencies, to support employee well-being, to facilitate the effective scheduling of vacations throughout the year, and to manage the financial risk of ongoing accumulation of accrued vacation, it is proposed that the policy be amended to encourage the scheduling of vacation time and limit the accumulation of carryover. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DM Fritz. Are there any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Is this change in the milestone consistent with other City of Toronto vacation protocols? And then secondly, I know you can't change number of weeks, but I just find 6 weeks in general pretty generous. Just thoughts on that, but there was no move to 4 weeks. I know that can't be changed. We're just wondering how that, what the genesis of such a big vacation time. And then can people take 6 weeks all at once, or is there a mandate on breaking that up?
Thank you, and through the chair. So the change in milestone from 22 to 21 was in effect since 2006, one of the collective agreements back then. So, and it is consistent with the City of Toronto being Local 416 over the years. This change that's being proposed today is essentially a housekeeping exercise to update the 22 years to the 21 years in terms of the language that's in the policy. With regards to taking all vacation at the same time in a given year, the collective agreement allows for a unionized employee to take all their vacation at one time. So should they wish to take all 6 weeks, for example, they can. Whereas in the non-union end, there is a limit. The limit is 3 weeks at a given point in time consecutively. I'm not sure if I've answered all your questions.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yan Fritz. Are there any other questions of staff on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's Councillor Lai here. I assume that this kind of housekeeping change on this policy would have no implication with the collective agreement that is now being. I just want to make sure that they all are in agreement, or just is this a housekeeping change, or?
Yes, it is. Through the chair, it is a housekeeping. The agreement does say 21 years, and it has been in place for many years.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask a question, Maureen Farrow. Is there any circumstances that you allow people to carry over a portion of their vacation? Like say they were getting married the next year, or, there may be some event. Is there a provision that allows that flexibility?
Yes, there is. There is a provision that allows for carryover under extreme extenuating circumstances. And the respective VP, or the head of the functional area, has that accountability to allow that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yan Fritz. Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, are there any speakers to the item? Seeing none.
Sorry, I'm got a little bit late. It's Nambi again. Sorry, I got late to ask this question. In terms of the capping of the of the vacation to a 1 year, the same year it's earned, that's not a change. That's a new addition to the policy. Am I correct with that?
That is correct.
So it's not just housekeeping. We are also doing a new policy to cap the vacation during the same year, and not allowing carry forwards, right?
That is correct. So there are two revisions that were proposed. The first revision is housekeeping, which is the elimination of the 22-year reference. The second revision is a new limit, which is the carryover of up to 1 year.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff on this item? Or any speakers for the item? Seeing and hearing none, I lost the video again, so I'll ask for the board secretary's assistance, please, in making this a recorded vote.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, people are coming back slowly. I see Councillor Lai and Vivian Fritz. I think that's it. Yeah, if you don't mind, please, assistant.
See you, Mr. Chair. We see you. Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I could see you. Oh, there's Mr. Farrell.
So I move staff recommendation on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Lai. Board Secretary, if you could please assist with the recorded vote.
Okay, Chair. So directors, when I call your name, please state in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
Favor.
Director Nambi Viviananthan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
Director Jeffrey Steiner.
In favor.
Thank you, Chair. The vote carries with a result of 6-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. The next item is item PA 18.13, a review of Toronto Parking Authority Policy Resolution 4-19, Occupational Health and Safety, and 4-22, Workplace Harassment and Violence. Ms. Ian Fritz, will you please provide an overview of the items to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toronto Parking Authority brings forward two policies for the board's review and endorsement. The Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act, sections 25 and 32, require that two policies relating to the Act be reviewed on an annual basis. These two policies are relevant to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. These policies are the Policy Resolution 4-19, Occupational Health and Safety, and 4-22, our Workplace Harassment and Violence Policy. On an annual basis, these policies are reviewed with the Joint Health and Safety Committee, which comprises of unionized and non-unionized employees, and any recommendations for amendments are brought forward to the board, and this occurs on an annual basis. For 2020, these policies were reviewed this year by the Joint Health and Safety Committee in February 2020, and there are no recommendations made for amendments. The board is requested to review and endorse these policies for 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ian Fritz. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, are there any speakers for the item? Seeing none, I'll ask for a mover to adopt the recommendation of staff.
Happy to move, Jeff Steiner.
Thank you. And for the time being, I actually see all. Maybe let's do the most quickly. Steiner has moved the adoption of staff recommendation. If I can ask all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Your video is frozen. I apologize. Board Secretary, if I could ask for your assistance, please, in recording votes.
Yes, Chair. Directors, when I call your name, please state in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor.
Director Nambi Viviananthan.
In favor.
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor.
Director Allison Mendez.
In favor.
Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Also in favor.
Thank you, Chair. The vote carries with a result of 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That brings us to the end of our public session. We have, I think, three matters which we want to go in camera. Item PA 18.14 and 18.15, the new matters, as well as the matter number, I think, 18.6, Eglinton and Caledonia. If I can have a motion, please, to move into closed session to discuss item PA 18.6, PA 18.14, and PA 18.15.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Board Secretary, could you please display and read the motion aloud?
Yes, Chair, that the Board of Directors of Toronto Parking Authority recess its public session to meet in closed session to consider the following items. Item PA 18.6, acquisition of parking at 105 Spadina Avenue, Car Park 212 and 363 Adelaide Street West, Car Park 227, as it pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition of disposition of land by the City of Toronto. Item PA 18.14, Toronto Parking Authority update regarding personnel matters as it pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual and security of property belonging to the Toronto Parking Authority. And item PA 18.15, Toronto Parking Authority update regarding President search process as it pertains to personal matters about identifiable individuals and labor relations or employee negotiations.
This is a vote for which a majority is required. It's been moved by Councillor Lai. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board Secretary, please ask for your assistance in closing the meeting.
Yes, Chair. Just give us a moment to close the stream. Okay, Chair, we are back.
Thank you very much. The first item we're back in public session is item PA 18.6, acquisition of parking at 105 Spadina Avenue, Car Park 212, and 363 Adelaide Street West, Car Park 227. There's a motion from Mr. Steiner to adopt the staff recommendation. All those in favor of adopting that recommendation? Sorry, I saw Mr. Steiner's hand. I didn't see others' hands. So please up your hand. I can see now. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item is to receive item 18.14, the discussion of personnel matters. All those, sort of a motion to receive that item.
Happy to so move.
Okay, Mr. Steiner, I think that was. I'm waiting for the video to come back. Come back slowly. Board Secretary, if I can ask your assistance, please, in taking recorded votes.
Yes, Chair. Directors, when I call your name, please state either in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow, please.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
In favor?
Director Nambi Vidyanathan.
In favor?
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor?
Director Allison Mendes.
In favor.
And Director Jeffrey Steiner.
In favor.
Thank you, Chair. The motion carries with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you very much. And the last item on our agenda is item PA 18.15, receiving the update about the presidential search process. If I can have a motion to please receive that item.
So moved.
Is that Councillor Lai? Sorry, I didn't hear who that was.
Maureen, I think. Maureen. Yes.
Sorry, I apologize. All right, move that. All those in favor, sorry, I'll please say recorded vote. Board Secretary, please conduct a recorded vote on this matter.
Yes, Chair. So once again, directors, when I call your name, please state either in favor or opposed. Director Maureen Farrow.
In favor.
Councillor Cynthia Lai.
Favor?
Director Nambi Vidyanathan.
In favor?
Chair Hartley Lefton.
In favor?
Director Allison Mendes.
In favor.
Director Jeffrey Steiner.
Also in favor.
Thank you, Chair. The motion carries with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our business for today. I thank you, everyone. This meeting is now adjourned. I hope that you all stay healthy. I look forward to seeing you at our next meeting in about 6 weeks. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.